Hello and welcome to another video. This is part 8 in the 10-part xAPI and Articulate Storyline series. And today we're looking at how you can manage your xAPI project. And what I mean by that is we're going to take that big sendStatement function that we've been working on, and we're going to break it down into smaller functions so that we don't have to send like 10 arguments along with it every time we want to execute that code from Articulate Storyline. So let's dive in here. We're going to start by looking at the storyline file. So go ahead and open up your storyline file and your xAPI statement JavaScript file. But let's look at what's going on here. So we enter the name and email address on the first slide. Then we have a couple of multiple choice questions, question 1 and 2, and then this pass fail slide where we send the results to the learning record store. So instead of just having this one generic sendStatement function that we execute every time someone answers one of these questions, it's like a whole paragraph of arguments we have to send here. We're gonna break it down into multiple functions. So instead of sendStatement, we're going to do sendViewed, and we'll send that whenever someone views the cheat sheet in the top right. We'll do a sendAnswered that will send whenever someone answers a question, and then we'll do a sendPassed and a sendFailed function. So that's 4 different functions altogether. So let's go ahead and get started here. So the first thing we want to do is probably move this conf variable outside of this big sendStatement function. So doing that will make sure that we can we don't want to set the conf variable every single time that we execute one of these functions. We just need to set it once when the JavaScript loads. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it outside of that function. And we can leave all of this code up here handling those timers as it is. So, I'm just going to be pulling stuff as needed from the sendStatement function, but once we have the other one set up, I'm just going to delete this function at the end. So let's create a new function here called sendViewed. So we're not going to send it any arguments yet. We're going to see what we need once we get it set up. We are going to want to get the player and then get the user's name and email address. So let's go ahead and copy those 3 lines of code and paste them in to the sendViewed function that we're working on. So you notice we also set up these other variables, user response, user score, max score. We don't need any of this for the sendViewed function because there is no score associated with just viewing the cheat sheet like we do over here. We don't need to pass any score when someone opens the cheat sheet to look at those extra tips. So we don't need any of those variables. Duration, we don't need the duration data either. For the purposes of this tutorial, let's just imagine it doesn't really matter how long someone's been on the slide for us before they go ahead and open that cheat sheet. The conf variable, we moved outside this function, so that's already good. Let's go ahead and copy this entire statement object where we're defining the statement, and we'll pick and choose which pieces we need from that. We actually would want to copy this line of code right after it too that sends the result to the LRS. So I'll copy this, and we will now paste this in our sendViewed function. So here's the sendViewed function, here's that statement, and then here's this const result equals this little bit of code that sends the statement to the LRS. So you notice here in this result object, we have the duration, the response, the score, and whether or not it was a success when they answered a question or passed a quiz. But we don't need any of that when someone's viewing the cheat sheet, so let's go ahead and get rid of it. So we just deleted that entire result object. And let's see what else we have here. We have this verb object where before we were passing in the verb ID and the verb when we executed the code from storyline. You see we're passing in this viewed verb, so right here. But since now we have this function called sendViewed, we already know that we want to use this viewed verb ID. So I'm just going to copy it from our storyline file, from the code we were executing when someone selected the cheat sheet, and I can just paste it in here for verb ID. And then same thing, instead of verb, I'm just going to put viewed because we already know what the verb is. For the object, now that's what might be different. The user might be selecting a cheat sheet, but we also might add different resources that they can access. So we'll make sure we still pass in an object and an object ID whenever the user selects, whenever we execute that JavaScript from storyline. Object description, we can just change this to a resource in Devlin's sample quiz, in Devlin's sample course. And again, we could keep that as a parameter, but in this case, we know these are all going to be resources in this course, so we can fill that one in here. And then for activity type, we know that the activity type is a resource because that, we executed this from a previous tutorial. So we can just copy this activity type URI and once again paste it in here where it says type. Okay, and it is an activity, that's right. So let's see what parameters we need now. So we need object and object ID. I mean, we're getting the user's name and email address from storyline, from that variable. So we're in good shape. So we just cut down all of these arguments to only 2 arguments. Okay, so let me show you how we would execute this code now. So we would do sendViewed. So I'll just show you from right here. And now we just need an object and an object ID. So we can see here this cheat sheet is the object ID. So I'm going to copy this. And I'll just put that in now. And then for the object, we just had cheat sheet, which we can see from before. It's right here. So now we can get rid of all of this code. And this is all we need to do when we execute this viewed statement from storyline. We only need to tell it which object we're viewing and what the object ID for that object is, and it will send that statement for us. So that's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'll paste it for this JavaScript on the other cheat sheet. And that is one function down. Well, let's see if we're missing anything else. So in our main function, we had this convert to ISO to get the duration. We added this function inside of our overall sendStatement function. Let's go ahead and take this function and put it outside of the sendStatement function. So at the end of our code, I'm just going to do a couple of line breaks and paste this function. And what this will do is now this function is available in the global scope, and from any of our other functions, we'll be able to call this convert to ISO function to give us our duration. If that sounds confusing, go ahead and watch the measure duration video, but you can just keep following along to see how we're going to break down this, how we're going to continue breaking down this big sendStatement function into these smaller, much more efficient functions with only a couple of arguments. So I'm going to minimize this function. It's a feature of Visual Studio Code, just so that it's not, causing us to scroll through more of this file. And now let's go ahead and create this sendAnswered function. Okay, so this is the function we're going to execute whenever someone selects one of these answer choices. So once again, we're going to want to get the user's name and email address and the player. So we'll copy these first 3 variables. And let's see what else we have here. We're getting the user's response from that response, from the variable we passed in as an argument. That's okay. We're gonna want to keep this variable. We're also getting the user's score, the max score, and the scaled score. So that all seems pretty important for when someone's answering a question. So I'm going to copy and paste these variables as well. So we have all of these variables in our sendAnswered function, and that is good. Let's see. Let's deal with this duration code block right here, because we are going to want to say how long someone spent on that slide before they did answer the question. So I'm going to copy that block of code, and we're going to paste it here. So you notice how we did this before is we used this timer parameter, and whenever we executed the code from storyline, we said, okay, either give us the slide timer or the course timer. Anytime someone answered a question, we would want to know how long they spent on the slide, and then whenever they pass or fail the quiz, we want to see how long they spent in the entire course. So we accomplished that with a parameter. But now, since we know we're only going to be sending this sendAnswered function when someone answers a question, we know that we'll always want that slide timer. We only want the course timer when they're passing or failing the quiz. So what we'll do is we'll just let final duration equal this convert to ISO function with the slide seconds. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all of this other stuff between here and there. And I'm going to get rid of this, the rest of the code that isn't doing anything here. So now we're defining this new final duration variable, but instead of having that if then, checking for whatever parameter we're passing, we already know we want the slide seconds. So we'll just execute this, convert to ISO slide seconds. Perfect. Let's see what else we want from this main statement. We want this statement object. So let's go ahead and copy that statement object with the result variable that sends the result to the LRS. We'll copy that. And we will go back up to our sendAnswered function and paste it. Perfect. So let's see what we can fill in here. So again, we were using parameters for the verb ID and verb, but we know whenever they answer one of these questions, we're going to want to use the answered verb. So I'll go ahead and copy this verb from here, and I can paste it in the verb ID. And for the verb, we'll just go ahead and put in answered for the verb display. So that's one less parameter and argument we have to pass in. Let's see, for the object ID and the object, those will be different because it could be any one of these questions. It could be question 1 or question 2. So we will want to pass that in as an argument. The object description, we can go ahead and put, we know this will be a question in Devlin's sample quiz. So that's fine. That will be the same for any question they answer. And for the activity type, again, we know it's going to be a question. So let's go ahead and pull this question activity type URI. And I will go ahead and paste that in here. So final duration, we know what that is now. We're converting the slide seconds. And the user response, the max score, the user score, and the scaled score, we're getting all of that from these storyline variables, so that's perfect. The last thing here is the success property. That will depend on whether or not the user is answering the question correctly or incorrectly, so we will need to pass that as a parameter. So if we look at this right now, we need to know the object ID, so object ID, and the success property. So let's go ahead and set this up. So we want the object ID, and the success property, which will be either true or false based on whether they answered the question correctly or incorrectly. So once again, look at how much more concise we made this function. So it's going to have only these 3 parameters now instead of all of the ones you see here. So we need the object, so I'll just go ahead and pull this question 1 object from the previous function. Oh, sorry, that's for the object ID, so I'll paste that for object ID. The object is just question 1, so we'll copy that and paste it here. And the success, let's see, we were passing false before, so I know this is the incorrect option, so we will pass false here. And instead of this huge block of code, this is all we need to execute from storyline. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to look at choice B. We're going to pass the same exact thing. They're answering question 1 incorrectly. Actually, I think we're missing one thing from this because we need to tell it which response variable we're getting the response from. So I'm going to go ahead and add this response var to the parameters list. Let's go back up to choice A. We see that we're setting this variable called question 1 response. So we need to add that as the 3rd argument. There we go. So this is what we need. So we'll do the same thing for choice B. I'm going to just paste what I had for choice A. We were passing the question 1 response variable, and that's what we're going to get the value from storyline, and we're going to put that here as the user's response. So that's why we needed that parameter as well. So choice C, this is the correct answer. So instead of making this one false, we want to make this one true. So now we'll go ahead and look at question 2, and we will try to recreate this. So choice A is the correct option here. We can see it. We're passing the true variable in the original function. So we'll change that to true. And instead of question 1, we want this to be question 2. And instead of question 1 response, we want this question 2 response variable. So I'll copy this because that's going to be what we are pasting in the other ones. So for B, we'll do the same, only we know that B is incorrect for question 2, so that will be false. And I'll copy this because we know choice C is incorrect as well. So there you have it. We turned those big paragraph-looking functions into these nice, concise, smaller functions. The last thing we need to do is just do that same approach for the pass and the fail JavaScript. Okay? So we did our sendAnswered function. Let's go ahead and minimize this. And now we're going to create the function sendPassed. Okay, and once again, I will go ahead and copy a bunch of this code. I'm going to go from this result variable we're setting up to send the statement all the way up to these variables that we define. Okay, so I'm going to paste that in here. And let's see what we need. So we want to grab the player. We want to get the user's name and email address. That's important. We don't need to get a response variable this time because they're not responding to a question. We just want to know whether they passed or failed the quiz. We do want to get the score and the max score and the scaled score because that's all important data that we will want to include with the quiz. We can just go ahead and let the final duration equal convert to ISO course seconds because we know when we're sending this final pass or fail statement, we want to know how long the user spent in the course, not on a specific slide. We do not need this conf object in here because we defined that in the global scope. And let's go ahead and take a look at the verb now. So since we're using the sendPassed function, we know we want to use the past verb. So I'm going to grab this verb ID from the execute JavaScript trigger in storyline. And I will just paste that where it says verb ID. And for the verb, I'll just go ahead and quickly type in passed. So the object and the object ID, maybe we have multiple quizzes. We can go ahead and leave those as placeholders. The description, we can say Devlin, or we know it will be a quiz in Devlin's sample course. The activity type we know is an assessment because you pass or fail an assessment. So I'm going to again copy that from the execute JavaScript trigger. And now let's look at this duration information. We're getting the duration. We do not need this response variable right here, or this response property. So let's go ahead and remove that. We will need a comma after final duration though. We do want the score information and the success. We don't need to use that as a parameter because we know if we're saying they passed the course that the success property should be true. So that's perfect. You can just set that to true. And let's look at the parameters we need here. So we need an object ID. And do we need anything else? We don't need the response. We know which duration we're using, so I think that's all we need, and we know that it's a success. So we just need the object and the object ID to tell it which quiz we're passing and what the object ID is for that quiz. So there we have it for sendPassed. Let's go ahead and copy this code because I'm just going to modify that to make the sendFailed function. So I'm copying it, I'm going to minimize it, and then I'm going to paste it right here. We're going to change this one to sendFailed. We'll get the object and the object ID. That's just what we need. Course seconds, yes. We're not going to use the passed verb ID. We're going to grab the failed verb ID. So just copy that from the execute JavaScript trigger on the failed layer. We'll go ahead and just overwrite the passed verb ID. And we'll change where it says passed right here to failed. It's still a quiz in Devlin's sample course. It's still an assessment activity type. We still want the score information, but now instead of true, the success value will be equal to false. Okay, so we're in good shape. Let's go ahead and copy this sendPassed function. And I'm going to go to the pass layer in the storyline course, and I'm going to paste in that function. We'll leave the big one right here for reference. I'm going to grab the verb ID or the object ID for quiz 1. And then the object will just be quiz 1. And make sure these are within quotes. Then we can get rid of what's left behind. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to paste it here on the failed layer but instead of sendPassed, we're just executing the sendFailed function. And once we're done with this, all of this code should be perfect. We should be able to publish this and execute it using these much more concise, smaller functions, and it should accomplish the same thing that our much longer function accomplished before. So let's go ahead and try that. So I'm going to press OK. We're going to publish this course to my desktop. Once it's published, go ahead and open the file, and we're going to open the story.html file with your code editor of choice. Looking back at this xAPI statement function, let's go ahead and get rid of this big sendStatement function that we were working on before, because we don't need that anymore. So I'm going to do backspace to delete it. Let's go ahead and save this file, and then do save as, and navigate to the storyline output that we just published and press save. I'm also going to go ahead and navigate to some storyline output from last video to grab this xAPI wrapper file. So just watch the previous video if you don't know how we grabbed that, or drop a comment below. And then I'm going to paste that in this same folder that we just published. Last thing, we want to get those script tags. I'm just going to copy and paste them from the last story.html file that we modified. We're going to scroll down to the bottom and grab these script tags right here, which link the xAPI wrapper and the xAPI statement file we've been working on. And then in the new story.html file, we'll scroll down, add a few line breaks above this closing body tag right here, and paste these two script tags. And then I'll do Control-S or File Save to save it. So let's go ahead and open up the story.html file. Oh wait, this was the old one. So let me make sure I go to the new one. So here we are, we have it open. We'll call this one Devlin Manage, because this is the Manage xAPI project tutorial. I'll put in my email address, and we will submit. Let's view the cheat sheet. We'll close the cheat sheet. Let's say that the answer is choice A. We'll answer choice A again, and oh no, we failed. Let's go ahead and go to the LRS now to see if those statements were recorded. So I'm signed into my LRS here. Over here on the left, let's go to xAPI data and then statements. And sure enough, here we are. We can see that Devlin Manage viewed cheat sheet, Devlin Manage answered question 1 and question 2, and then Devlin Manage failed the quiz. If we expand question 2, we can see that I selected choice A. I spent 3 seconds on the question. My raw score at that point is 50% or 0.5, because this one was the right answer, but question 1 we answered incorrectly. So there you have it. As we can see, all of the xAPI data is still there, but we made the statements the functions much easier to work with, because we vastly reduced the number of arguments that we need to include when we execute those functions from Storyline. So I hope this was useful for you. If you did learn something here and you want to keep learning about xAPI and all of the custom code needed to really dive into those custom implementations, then please go ahead and subscribe, because there is more coming. In the next session, we're looking at how we can go ahead and pull data from the Learning Record Store so that we can make use of it in our course, or to create some custom dashboards, things like that. So go ahead and subscribe, or if you want to follow along live, then go ahead and Google Devlin Peck Crowdcast, because we go live every week. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.